Hello, everyone. This is part 2 of week 9 of Plato, a class on the Protagoras, Phaedo, and Sophist. We continue to talk about the Sophist, and we continue to talk about themes in the Sophist that have something to do with Parmenides' distinction between being and not being. Now, you might wonder why would someone who is interested in Parmenides' distinction between being and not being write a dialogue that is ostensibly about sophistry. Presumably, the dialogue is sort of asking, who is the sophist or what is sophistry? And it may seem kind of far-fetched that on the one hand, we have this figure that has a certain kind of political reputation as a kind of fraud or dangerous seducer of the young. And on the other hand, we have a complicated, abstract, metaphysical theme, the exploration of being and not being. But it turns out, or at least scholars have argued, a lot of scholars have argued that the connection lies precisely in this idea that the sophist is a fraud. And that somehow, by kind of dealing in illusion, the sophist deals in not being, or at least in a kind of falsity that has something to do with saying what is not. So that is presumably the connection. And I want to say a little bit about one moment in the sort of attempt to define sophistry, which leads up to a kind of clarification of that connection. The Iliadic stranger and his young interlocutor, Theaetetus, have agreed that the sophist is someone who makes images of real things. And now they think, well, maybe there are two ways of making images. One way of making an image aims to preserve the proportions and other important features of the original. And another way of making an image is kind of more like painting, where the idea is that the painter aims to sort of create an illusion that takes care of the effects of perspective. And in talking about that second kind of painting, Plato uses the notion of a phantasma, an illusion, and he calls that kind of artist someone who makes kind of illusions and creates appearances. And the passage is sort of independently of the further issues in the Sophist quite interesting because it relates to issues that have continued to interest people in the philosophy of mind. How does it work that, say, in the painting, the boat looks both large and small? That is an example from D.E. Moore from a paper that he published in 1957. And until today, people are kind of engaging with these questions of how does perspective, the kind of creation of the illusion of distance, how does it work that something looks tall, that it looks small, and so on and so forth. And the sort of short passage here in the Sophist is a classic go-to place for that kind of issue. But for our purposes now, the important thing is to say, well, the Sophist is someone who, if he is that second kind of image maker, and it's not quite clear what he is, but if he is that, then he creates seeming that is not. Illusion or appearance that is mere appearance, as it were without being. Seeming that is not. And at that point, the Iliadic stranger says, as it were, hold on. If that is our account of the Sophist, then we seem to presuppose something, that if we are kind of good Parmenideans, we are not entitled to say we seem to be in a conundrum, because it seems that we presuppose that not being is. So the puzzle that Plato is laying out here is, how can we explain falsity and mere appearance and illusion in such a way that we are not saying something incomprehensible about not being?